Hi, I'm Megan, and welcome to my channel. I'm here today for another episode of Friday Sews. This is a great initiative from the sewing vlogger community where we all take an opportunity to sort of have like a virtual YouTube sewing circle and catch up with each other on what's been going on this week. So if you're interested in what I've been up to, keep watching. So this week has been definitely an interesting one for our family. So as I mentioned last week, my daughter was in quarantine due to a close contact with a COVID case, which meant she couldn't leave our apartment. And then my husband was called out of town to deal with a family emergency. And that meant that my toddler, my daughter, and I were at home alone, and we couldn't leave our apartment for 4 days. And I will tell you, we are very privileged in that I can work from home and we have everything we need, and I didn't need to worry about keeping my kids entertained or fed. But those 4 days of like full court press parenting, not being able to even go outside because we don't have a backyard, so they went outside and jumped around the balcony a little bit, but I also don't want to disturb my neighbors with screaming children. Those were 4 very long days. So I didn't get a lot of sewing done, but I did get some prep done. And then when my husband got home on Tuesday, we were all so happy to see him. And I did get some time to sew on Wednesday night. So worked on a couple projects. One of them was this top that I'm wearing. This is the Endless Summer Tee that I had talked about in my spring sewing plans. I'm quite pleased with it. It's with Double Brushed Polyester that I had bought several years ago from Sly Fox Fabrics, and in a stripe. And the stripes do make my eyes go a little bit wonky, but I did a pretty good job stripe matching, and maybe in another video when I go over the pattern I will show you how I did, but I'm quite happy with it. It's comfortable, it's cute, and it just was nice to sew something that I didn't even have to look at the instructions on how to put it together, right? It's just a tank top. Front, back, neckband, armbands, hem, done. So that was the type of comfort sewing that I totally needed this week as I put my kids to bed and took a little bit of time for me. That was definitely what I needed to do. I guess my theme this week is double brushed polyester, which is funny because I raved about being able to find it locally and in Canada, and actually, like, as I have cut out 3 projects with it this week, I'm reminded why it's not my absolute favorite fabric to work with. Like, it does, I once heard it described on Facebook as sleazy fleece, and that's what it felt like for this poster. And I would say that I don't have as negative a reaction to double brushed polyester as that. It's not, it's definitely got that, like, it's got a texture to it. And you might be familiar with like buttery leggings or that type of polyester fabric in ready-to-wear clothing, and that's what it feels like. It's soft and it drapes well, it doesn't breathe, which is okay in the climate I live in. It's cold here, like that little bit of extra warmth is fine, but it is great for kids' clothes, and it does come in some really cute patterns and prints now, and you can buy it in lots of places, so that's great. But it's also, it's a real pain in the ass to cut out, to be honest, because when it's staticky, and it's really dry here in Calgary, so things get really staticky. There's lots of static buildup on fabric. So when you're trying to lay your knit fabric out to make sure that it's not off grain, it doesn't have any kind of twists, the fabric sticks together, and it makes it difficult to make sure it's all flat, that it's not bunching underneath. And so usually I'll run my DBP through the dryer with a couple dryer sheets before I cut it out, and then I'll like shake it flat to make sure that that charge has, the static charge has been, taken care of before I fold it and cut out my pattern pieces. And it's a little bit tough on things like serger blades or rotary cutters. It can dull your blades quite quickly, just because I have no idea why. I'm not a scientist. But my guess is that the polyester fibers are harder to cut through than a natural fiber. But again, I don't know. This is just my experience. So if you're cutting it with DBP or another similar brushed polyester, I would recommend, if you can, a new rotary blade. Makes a world of difference if you're having trouble with it. But the lovely thing is it doesn't fray. So sometimes if I make leggings for one of my kids with it, I don't even hem them. But anyway, so this week I cut out the Lucida dress that I have been working on, and it's ready to be sewn together. And then I cut out a pair of leggings for my daughter to wear. She's like a massive unicorn fan. She loves them. Like most 6 and 7-year-olds, I think, now love them. So I had bought this unicorn polyester at Fabricland, and it's still in stock. So it's, if you're in Fabricland, Western Canada, the flyer that came out this month, I think it's even on sale for this period of time for March. This is one of the colors that came. They had 3 different colorways in stock at the Fabricland that I went to. She picked the mint green. I had sent her a photo through her dad, and I was like, pick one. Do you want navy or mint or coral? She picked the mint green. And last night I sewed her up a quick little pair of leggings, which took, so it was like 25 minutes to put together. And this morning they were waiting for her to put back on as she went back to school today. And she was so thrilled. And she said, Mom, they have all my favorite things on them, unicorns and Slurpees. So really, could you get better than that? The other things I've been working on this week are tracing patterns. So I had a bunch of patterns printed on AO sheets last week, and they were dropped off. I had Katie from Practical Pixie Printing print them for me, and she dropped them off at my apartment, which was awesome because, like I say, we couldn't leave. So she dropped them off downstairs, and I ran downstairs to grab them. And one of the patterns that I had printed was the Sea Change jumpsuit by Pattern Emporium. So I talked in my previous video about whether I should use the polyester fabric that I bought at Fabricland. It's a woven fabric it's a black background and it's got a floral print on it. Should I use it for a cami and a midi skirt or a jumpsuit? And I decided to throw caution to the wind, and I would try the jumpsuit and we'll see how it goes. So last night I got that pattern traced out, and it was 3 sheets. It's a pretty big pattern, and I'm confident in my sizing. I have had good luck with Pattern Emporium sizes. This one has you size your pattern based on your upper bust measurement. And my upper bust and my hips, there's 2 sizes between, and they said, according to the pattern instructions, they tell you if you need to grade or not because it's quite free flowing from the bust down. I decided to go, actually I haven't cut it out yet, so I haven't fully decided if I'm going to go with the open back option that has a button so you can open the back to get it over your hips, or if I'm going to go with the closed facing because it suggests that I could get away with either option. So I'll let you know how I make out. But my next step with that project is to cut it out, and I think I'm going to have to cut it out on the floor, which doesn't thrill me because my back is sore because I have an office job and little kids, and I'm over 25. My back hurts. That's just the reality of my life. So I'll be crawling around on the floor with my scissors, but it's a long pattern. Like, I'm 5'9", so from my bust line to the floor, that's a long leg to cut for. So I will do that next. I'm hoping to get that done either tonight or maybe on the weekend and start working on that because I think it's going to be super cute. I saw a few pattern testers layer a t-shirt or a long sleeve t-shirt underneath it, and I thought, yes, that is what I want to wear right now. It is not warm enough to wear a sundress, but I am so tired of wearing leggings and sweatshirts, or jeans and sweatshirts, or jeans and t-shirts and cardigans. Like, it's going to be a long time before we can go bare-legged out into the world here in Calgary, but it's coming, and I am ready for it. I have 2 more things I wanted to share today. One is a blog post that I read this week. So one of my online sewing friends, who I haven't ever met in real life, but I'd love to meet her someday. She seems really awesome. Her name's Nicole, and she's a fan of a lot of the same pattern companies that I like, and she has a sewing blog. And so we started interacting on Instagram and Facebook because she sews for her daughter, and her daughter is so cute. And her daughter is a little bit older than mine, so I'm kind of looking at her as like a model of the types of patterns that Emma might like when she's a little bit older. But Nicole posted a blog post this week about adding a shelf bra to a rash guard swim top. And I think if you have a tween or a preteen or a teen or yourself in your life and you're sewing for them and you'd like to make a rash guard, which is like a long sleeved swim top, really important for sun protection, this is a great tip because kids do not like wearing layers and layers of clothing, especially not at the pool. Like, there's so much to contend with. And I know my daughter would not love wearing a swim top and a rash guard And the best swimsuits I have for her, the top is just a rash guard. But you get to a certain point where you want a little bit more support if you have, a little bit of a chest, or for modesty, or just layers. Like, have you ever swam in a lake in Canada? It's cold. So anyway, Nicole posted this blog post about how to add a built-in shelf bra to a rash guard. And I think it's awesome. So I've bookmarked it, and I will be coming back to it in a couple of years when I'm ready to tackle making swimwear for my kiddo. But 'tis the season, right? People are starting to get ready to sew swimwear. And if you're lucky and you live further south than I do, maybe you're already sewing swimwear and using it. So I'll put a link in the description box to Nicole's blog post. Her blog is called So Hard of Hearing, and she makes gorgeous clothes for her and her daughter. So make sure you check it out. And the last thing I want to share today is a book that arrived this morning. So I participated in a research study with the university here, and I've signed myself and my kids up for any kind of research study that we could possibly participate in ever, because I feel like if I can share something with the world that will help other people, it is my responsibility to do that. And so if students or doctors or psychologists or whoever can benefit from the experiences that I've had and my children have had, or even just their typical toddler experience as they learn about language and speech development, then that's awesome. Like I've said before, I really value learning and lifelong learning. So anyway, all that to say, we have done lots of research studies, but this one was the first one that I'd participated in. And at the end of the study, they gave me a gift card for Indigo, which is the bookstore here in Canada. And I was like, well, that's super exciting. I love books. I read a lot of books. But then I was listening to Uncut the Makers podcast, and they were interviewing an author about a new sewing book. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to buy that one. So this came today, and it is a book about sewing with African wax print. And it's by Adaku Parker. And I haven't even looked at it yet. But look at the skirt on the cover. Isn't that just awesome? So anyway, I've been curious about sewing with African wax print or Ankara fabric for a long time. I think it's stunningly gorgeous. I'm very interested in researching more before I start using it, to make sure that I'm doing it appropriately and appreciating the fabric and cultures. And I thought that alongside with that, this is a book about sewing, about the hobby that I'm passionate about, and I should be putting my dollars when I can behind other people who are creating things so that we can show publishers and TV channels and all kinds of companies that there's a market with an appetite for this. So I've bought a few sewing books lately. This is the latest one, and I'm very excited to check it out. So I'll also put a link to the episode of the Uncut the Makers podcast I was listening to, where they talk about Ankara fabric and whether it's appreciation or appropriation. And it's very interesting to listen to. So I would recommend that you give it a try, download the podcast. I love sewing podcasts too. I often have them on when I'm sewing or when I'm tracing patterns, and I thought that episode was excellent. So anyway, that's it for me. It was a week of not a lot of time at the machine, but lots of time thinking about being at the machine. And as our lives have returned back to a little bit more of a normal pace and pattern and routine, I am looking forward to starting some work on some new projects. So I will also put a list of other Friday Sews vloggers in the description box below, so you can be sure to check them all out. It's a fun tag, and I've had a lot of fun watching these videos and making them. So I hope that you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon.